involves the proposed Dock Square garage redevelopment. The Dock Square, there's so much that I can say about it, but I only have a few minutes, because I'm going to all the meetings that have been concerned with it, principally with the Boston Civic Design Commission, or the design subcommittee of the Boston Civic Design Commission, which I expect is going to report to the commission as a whole that proposal. And there are many reasons, one of which is that the height, well, as you can see from the before and after, and the before comes from Matt Conti's
Just a photo.
A photo, which Matt has generously authorized me to duplicate. And the second comes from the developer themselves. They put that up on the website several months ago, although I haven't seen it since at the meetings. And it shows what their proposed development will do to the view from Hanover Street and Cross Street. Matt's photo is from parcel 10, which is just adjacent to Hanover and Cross, and that identifies it as Hanover and Cross, which will obliterate 3/4 of the Custom House Tower and a good part of the downtown skyline. The BRA, BPDA, I'll call them the BRA, it's still the symbol of BRA to me, is pushing hard for it. Why? I don't know. The developer paid $170 million for the building. I asked at the last meeting, do I recall correctly that at an earlier meeting, you said that this garage per parking space produced the highest revenue of a garage in the city? And he said, no, but it's among the highest. Okay. So I followed that with, well then, would it be feasible? Would a no-build alternative be feasible? And he sort of said yes. So I'm suggesting that since it is going to do that to the north end and to all the tourists who walk up Cross Street and take photographs of the Custom House Tower, can't we simply preserve our historic assets, not plow them under, leave them in place? As I said, the Boston Civic Design Commission, Design Review Committee is, I expect, going to oppose it and advise the full commission to vote against it, because Andrea Lears, who is now the president of the full commission, stated at the last meeting that it blocks, that it separates the continuity, historical continuity, or continuity of the historic areas between the Blackstone Street and Faneuil Hall Marketplace, as you can see even from view from Cross Street and Hanover Street. Hulking, something I've described as the headless back and shoulders. Another member, the distinguished architect William Ron, said, we will be criticized if we approve this. So I expect that they're going to disapprove. So with the professional advice, I also expect that the BRA may very well ignore it. Under the zoning code article 28, if anyone's interested where the Boston Civic Design Commission was established, it says that the BRA or the mayor can pretty much ignore the recommendation. If they do, then they are supposed to write their reasons and give it to the BCDC. Who knows what reasons they would come up with. I guess economic development.
Sorry.
Yes.
I know we're trying. I want to hear all this, and maybe we should schedule time to hear it in full. But for everyone, as they're sitting here, what can we do to fight this now?
Okay. What I'm going to ask is for a show of hands. But first, if anyone supports it, and I think there is someone here who does. I think in fairness, he ought to have the opportunity to speak. Otherwise, I'm going to,
We don't
We don't
have
have
time
that
tonight.
time.
This is the last
All right,
minute addition,
all right.
so we can do this at the end of the meeting, but we have people here who, have something to
Okay.
do, so.
in that case, I plan to write a personal opposition letter. May I write the letter for NEWRA?
Can we see a show
Not
of
if we don't
hands?
vote on it.
If,
And those opposing? Sorry.
Hey, Victor,
Yes.
did BRA today that public hearing for March 14th? I think that was on their agenda.
okay, oh, and also, and also, Matt, Dave has reminded me that the comment period ends on February 22. So besides my comment, please, everyone else who is interested, write a comment to the BRA.
We might need a little more info on how to write a comment and who to send it to.
If I
so
could,
we can
if you go to Matt's website, northandwaterfront.com, and he has a very good coverage of the last IHE meeting on his site. At the bottom of that article, he provides a link directly to the BRA website where you can just click on and type in your comment there.
Oh, that's great.
Would you like specific things we should hit on that maybe?
If anybody has any questions about what the proposal is, I brought a lot of materials with me, and Victor and I would be more than happy to stick around after the meeting.
Actually, I was
and go over
asking if
everything.
there was something that we could probably just, here are 3 key things that you
Right.
could state as a problem, have some backup, to give each of us more.
Well, I think everyone should form their own opinion. I would urge everyone who hasn't already to check out Matt's post on his website. It goes into pretty
You
good
know,
detail.
why don't we were talking about bringing this up again at 8:45,
Okay.
after
Thank you.
the folks from Chase are done. Let's do that.
Okay.
Because I think I'd like to hear.
And
let
hold
everybody
off
have
the
a-
vote until others have had a chance to
Yeah, and
speak.
let's everybody have a chance to speak.
Thank you.
But like I said, we.
I guess one thing that I didn't make clear earlier was that what is proposed to be built above the Dog Square garage is residential housing, condominiums, not an increase in parking spaces. Condominiums described by the presenter at the last meeting as luxury.
How many?
Up to 250 added. One of the recent meetings, they were talking about 170 or 180. At the last meeting, I said, are you committing yourself to 170? No, we're not committing ourselves. We're going to ask for a planned development area permitting up to 250 luxury condominiums.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
What about the height restriction? Are they exempt from the height restriction?
Well, that's interesting that you ask.
Because in the Boston, they couldn't go any higher. The one that's going in on Blackstone Street can't go any higher, but they want to go up 100 feet?
You're making the argument
And what
that I
about
will make.
the
I agree
historical?
with you.
I'm on the road here. What about the historical? Faneuil Hall's right there. And then, growing up here, living here, we had the expressway that walled us up. Now we have luxury apartments walling us up. I mean, it's getting crazy.
That's one of the arguments that the design committee, the Boston Civic Design Commission has been making. And just for curiosity, I looked up the original urban renewal plan. The height limit there was 60 feet.
Yeah.
Victor,
Yes.
but what governs the height limit now? Is it the Greenway District guidelines, or is it zoning, or what?
Well, the Greenway District guidelines call for 125 feet, but at a recent meeting, the BRA told us that those are only guidelines, which, whom are they supposed to guide? I don't know. But the implication was you, the Boston Civic Design Commission, can ignore them. But Andrea Lears, the chairman of the commission, is saying, I'm not even comfortable with 125 feet.
Can you, would you say it again? I forgot the figure. The proposal is what? How high?
Proposal is 160 feet.
Wow, okay, thank you.
And that's what you'll see on page 2 of the handout that I presented.
I remember when we were when we were dealing with the hotel on parcel 9, and we went through that whole state process, because it's MassDOT property originally. And I remember the BRA saying that site could go up higher, parcel 9 could be higher because the garage was governing the, kind of the maximum height in that area. And so now, will they be using that new 160 feet to govern everything else that's gonna be built around there?
Who knows?
I mean, there's no planning, there's no plan that they go by.
Parcels are around.
Hold on, they don't plan, and they don't build by plan. They simply point to a building nearby and say, look, that one's high, let's make this one
That's
high.
exactly what you did. You point to the north end and you say, oh, the buildings are short, so we should be building shorter.
No, we have 155 feet.
Which is new.
Okay.
What?
No, let's go
What?
one at a time and do questions. Mary has a question. Go.
No, it's what, I didn't hear the word.
I don't have a question, I have a comment. And I would just like to say that yet again, we're being asked to give up a piece of our history for investment housing for the 1%. This is luxury housing. I know that there is this fashionable myth among the development community that somehow building luxury housing trickles down to provide more housing for the rest of us. If this is happening in the city of Boston, I have yet to see any evidence of it whatsoever. People have tried to trivialize the concerns of others, saying, oh, this is about the view of the custom house, who cares? No, this is an important historical area in this city. Actually, I would say it's an important historical area in the country. And so this is part of what makes Boston unique. We are a historic city. We understand the importance of that. And I don't know if they understand that in the VRA, but I would suggest that people who want to comment bring that to their attention. This is not Minneapolis. This is Boston. Minneapolis might be a very nice city. It may be transit friendly, but guess what? We are unique. We want to stay unique. We don't want to be just like any other city. And someone needs to think about these things. I don't know if anyone in the VRA is doing that.
Here. No one is proposing to tear down the
Okay,
building.
one at a time.
It's an ugly garage. It's a 6-story ugly garage.
No, it's a beautiful garage.
Is that
Give them a chance to speak.
No, please, you need, stand up.
Yes.
I don't know who you are, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but you.
Tell us your
want to speak.
opinion, absolutely, we're here to listen.
No, we want to hear all sides of the issue.
Right. My name is Max Villers. I moved here a year ago. I know, crazy, terrible. But I come from Washington, D.C. That's where I grew up. That's where I was born. And I'm sorry I only moved here a year ago, but I've done my due diligence. I've done my research. And from my own opinion, as I walk past the Dock Square garage every single day, at least twice a day, because I walk to Scully Square, where my office is, every single day, it is hideous. And I am not saying that this development is the most amazing thing that's ever happened in Boston, and we need to do it, and these luxury units are the one thing that we need in this town. No, I'm not saying that. But no one here is arguing to tear down the garage. Everyone is arguing to keep it the same, which, please go walk at that corner, Hanover and Cross, where the photo was taken, where the trees nicely hide the garage. I can show you the photos I took this evening. It's hideous. It is literally a saggy scrotum at the bottom of a beautiful tower. That is what it is. And I'll tell you right now, the Custom House Tower is my favorite building in Boston. It is, by far. I love it, but I don't think that the garage complements it in whatsoever way. I mean, I think the view that everybody is so concerned about, and I think that people are concerned about, it's destroyed. Whether you're from the stairs of City Hall, down on North Street, at the corner of Blackstone and Hanover, or Cross and Hanover, the view is destroyed. It was destroyed 70 years ago when they decided to plow through the north end with the Central Artery. And again, I'm not saying this is the best thing in the world. but don't argue to keep it the same. At least argue to tear it down and build something that is the same height as it is today, which again, a tall, 6-story building with something that's more beautiful.
Okay, let me.
We have to keep moving because they're
Let
going
me
to
respond quickly to that since I've been to so many design committee meetings. It cannot be torn down because Faneuil Hall Marketplace needs parking for customers at Faneuil Hall Marketplace. And there is a commitment by the developer to Faneuil Hall Marketplace to keep it in operation.
Okay, and that's what I understand that. And that's why I'm saying if things have to stay the way they are, if it has to stay a garage, why not try and beautify it? And unfortunately, just adding 1 story to it isn't going to be cost effective for the developer.
Okay, next.
We care about
No,
developers
7,
down
no,
here.
I'm saying,
Well,
I'm saying people are arguing.
There's an opportunity cost.
Okay.
I'm Jared Alex, I live on North Street, so I do walk on by quite a bit. There's an opportunity cost of not building anything, right? And that opportunity cost is 180 or 250 homes. 180 or 250 homes in one of the most transit accessible neighborhoods in the city of Boston, and ultimately in the United States, right? 180 homes. What is the #1 source of greenhouse gas emissions today in Massachusetts and in the United States? Personal automobiles. What happens if we don't build more homes in the city of Boston? They'll get built in Medford. They'll get built in Ashland. They'll get built elsewhere in the state. How are those people going to get into the city of Boston? They're going to be contributing to the same congestion that we're already complaining about today, the same congestion that we got the #1 award for being the most congested city in the country, because those people are still coming here. Not building the homes is not going to prevent them from coming here. Not building the homes is just going to add them to our streets, driving here. So I think that's one thing. Now, I will say, Victor, I was there with you back in April of last year at that community meeting, and I hated it, this project. I thought it was hideous. I thought it added no value, really, aside from those homes, which it's important, but it really was not enough when I saw, well, we're still keeping 300 parking spaces, right? And it's still going to be really terrible on the ground floor where there's no retail. And they're going to shrink the existing restaurant and make room for the lobby. So I described my detailed concerns with the project in my letter to them, and I put forward, if you have to keep the garage, here are my 3 recommendations. My 3 recommendations were: 1, get rid of the slip lane that was cutting into the little pedestrian plaza that's in front of the Hard Rock Cafe today, because I don't think that was actually necessary, and I think it would just create more congestion, and be dangerous for people using that space. So get rid of the slip lane. Number 2, as the plan calls for, in that part of the city, add retail to the ground floor of the garage. Take away a few of the parking spaces. You can have some shallow bays. Shallow bays are helpful because that's less square footage. That means smaller businesses would be able to afford to rent it because they're not renting this massive space. So you can have it facing the greenway. Retail doesn't exist today. And the third piece is to make sure that when they design the garage, when they design the addition on top, that they accommodate for the fact that they could someday in the future, if, and I hope to God this becomes the case, we don't need as much parking in the future, they could convert those parking spaces into usable, habitable space, potentially more homes. Those 3 items are what I asked for. When we went to the meeting just a month ago, all 3 of those items had been checked off. They added the retail, they dropped the slip lane, they confirmed that they could convert those parking spaces into habitable space in the future. And I think that's really important because we have 12 years. 12 years to dramatically change the way we're living today. Otherwise, the worst effects of climate change will be locked in. Let alone the air pollution from the driving, let alone all these other healthcare costs that we deal with today. If we don't build these homes at this project, and we don't allow 3 new homes to go on top of an existing building on Fleet Street, as we denied and our group did this fall, where are people going to live? Where are we going to build the homes?
You refer to those condos as homes. They're luxury apartments.
They're still homes for somebody.
They're homes, but they're investments.
If those
too.
people don't move
It's
in
like
there,
the money
they're
in
coming from
towers.
my
The Chinese
apartment.
are coming by 10 floors.
Okay,
Okay, all right.
we have 5 minutes, so I'm gonna turn it back over to Victor. And next steps.
Okay.
We've got 5 minutes before we have to.
All right, can I say something? Sure.
I haven't been to as many meetings as Victor and maybe some of the other you in the audience, but I have been attending the last few. And here's one person who says, we don't have to keep the garage. You can tear down the garage. I understand that there's concern with the merchants at Quincy Market about not being able to accommodate visitors who come into the city by car. Well, no one's, or at least when I asked the question at the last meeting, I said, well, instead of building a glass box 7 stories tall on top of a 7-story garage, why can't you either put some of it or all the garage below grade on the ground. And it was dismissed out of hand as being economically unfeasible. And then, without really showing any evidence that they've done any sort of research or study into whether or not it is feasible or not, but the main argument they made was, well, the folks in Quincy Market would be irreparably harmed because we'd have to take the garage out of commission for 2 years in order to tear down the old building, and it was just too expensive, it was too costly. Well, it may be too costly for a developer that has certain financial targets they have to meet, but that's where supposedly the BRA is supposed to step in and say, look, if you want to develop this plot of land, you're going to have to put the garage on the ground. Other places, Rose Wharf, other places along the Greenway, they've all done that when they put a new development. And then you wouldn't need a 14-story monstrosity at that site. You could have something that's much more pleasant to not just the tourists walking through, but to all the residents in the abutting communities too. So I'd like to see someone put the developer's feet to the fire and say, come back to us with a proposal that puts the garage on the
Should
ground.
we do that in a letter from NEWRA?
And if they can't make as much money with an underground garage as they can with just slapping a glass tower on top of it, we'll do that.
Should we do a letter?
Well, that's the question. I plan to write a personal comment letter opposing this. May I follow the NEWRA letter?
If we do a letter, I think something should be said about housing, because to the point of building more units, I think that's absolutely important. I finance affordable housing as a living, and there's a huge problem with that in the city. But we don't want the seaport effect happening where you don't have a neighborhood because you have all of these luxury units that are purchased by people with oodles of money. I missed the boat on that apparently, but I mean, they just buy them and they sit empty and nobody's using the retail, nobody's using the restaurants, stuff's running out of business because there's all these kind of like absentee owners. Great for them, but that doesn't help everyone else. Like, that's gonna be all, if it's luxury, it's gonna be the same thing. And at some point, the market is gonna become saturated with that kind of product, which I would argue maybe it kind of is already. And there's gonna be a lot of that stuff sitting empty because nobody can afford to buy it and they won't sell it because it's too expensive, and like, it's gonna be a weird,
So,
bad effect on
Victor,
the
May I
market.
write a NEWRA letter subject to the approval of the executive committee? I write a draft, send it to the committee.
that'd be great.
Okay.
So all those in
That
favor?
says what?
Don't build it, get on the garage, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I think your idea, Dave, was great, the garage on the
Well, I
ground.
think so too, but that doesn't mean yours.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Parking's such a revenue producer. Just look at the government center garage. They didn't take that down. They're building around it because they need the revenue from the parking. Then eventually they will turn that into resident parking for those condos that are going in.
Yeah, except that they're building 40-story towers there. We don't want 40-story
The
towers.
garage that was here was more ugly, is that it were more ugly than the one in Dark Square. But they're managing to incorporate that into their high rises.
Yeah, but we don't want a high rise there.
So,
I think we're good.
The DRA on its agenda today has
There is one.
Yeah, folks,
The 22nd.
So we all in favor, we're gonna write this letter?
saying what? Meeting of
Just write to a draft.
Yes, show of hands.
Yes.
Those in favor? Okay, those opposed? Okay.
I like-